Hello everyone. In this, we are going to discuss paper number 7, Technology of Milk and Milk Products. In that, the module number is 24, in which the Technology of Cheese Manufacture Part 2, that is soft and hard cheese varieties. We already discussed in the previous module the classification of cheese, in which we saw that based on the moisture content of the cheese or the degree of expulsion of the whey in cheese manufacture, we can obtain a cheese which is firm, or even we can obtain a cheese which is soft. The application of these two different types of cheeses, that is soft and hard varieties, would be different by the end users. For example, the shreddability or the sliceability of the block cheese would come only from a hard cheese variety, whereas a soft cheese variety can also be used even in salads or in other applications where you don't need those shredding or the hard body is not required. Now, in the manufacture of cheese, to have obtained the soft or the hard variety, the processing parameters has to be changed. For instance, the cooking temperature has to be raised if you want to decrease the moisture content in the resultant cheese. Similarly, pressing, as we used to do it for paneer making, if you go for pressing, you know that more and more whey is going to be expelled out of the cheese structure, obtaining a harder cheese variety. So with this in view, we will see in the subsequent slide how we can classify and what types of cheese are included under the category soft and hard cheeses and how they are being manufactured. Examples of soft cheeses. The examples which I have shown in this particular slide includes brie, cream, ricotta, gourmandise, camembert, Liederkranz, and cottage. If you see the origin, because again some classification has been based on the origin, and it is very important to know the history of the cheese, where such cheese originated. The origin of brie is French. The origin of cream cheese in United States. Ricotta originated in Italy, which is made from whey, particularly cheese whey. Gourmandise origin is French, and Liederkranz origin is United States. If we see some characteristics and usage of these soft varieties of cheese, for brie it should have an edible crust, mild to pungent flavor, and for application this particular brie variety is used both as an appetizer and used as a dessert. For the second variety, that is cream cheese, the characteristics include very mild, chilled slightly, and it finds very good application in salad, in snack foods, as well as in desserts. The third, ricotta, obtained from cheese. The characteristics include mild, curd or dry, and for application it is either used for cooking as well as in dessert applications. The fourth variety is gourmandise. The characteristics include cherry brandy flavor, and the application includes as appetizer and also in desserts. The next is camembert, which has a characteristic pungent flavor, and application includes as an appetizer and for dessert. For Liederkranz, the important characteristics of such cheese include an edible crust, which we already saw for brie, a pungent flavor, and the application includes as an appetizer and for dessert. The last one, soft variety cottage cheese. They can be served as large or in small curds pack size. They can be dry or even creamed using some low fat cream to have about 5% fat. And the application of this cottage cheese includes salad, snacks, as well as for cooking purpose. This slide throws an example of hard cheese varieties. The cheese varieties hard shown in this particular slide include Romano, Sapsago, Provolone, Parmesan, and Colby or Jack cheeses. The origin of Romano and Provolone both are in Italy, whereas the origin of Sapsago is in Switzerland. That's a Swiss origin. Looking to the characteristics of each cheese, let us dwell on Romano. It has got a piquant flavor, a granular texture, and it is usually for applications, usually grated and used as a snack. For Sapsago cheese, it has generally a clover-like flavor, and utility is usually after grating, similar to that of Romano. The third variety, Provolone, it should have a firm consistency, smooth plastic body, creamy white color, can be smoked, should have a mild to sharp flavor, and application includes cooking and in snack applications. For Parmesan, a granular texture is a characteristics. It has got a brittle body, light yellow color, sharp piquant flavor, and for end use application it is used in grated form in pasta, soups, salads, casseroles, muffins, and also can be used with bread. The last variety, Colby or Jack, the characteristics include a firm smooth body, marbled white and orange color, mild to mellow flavor, and application includes use in snacks, cold or hot sandwiches, salads, pizzas, and desserts. This slide pertains to the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India specifications for cheese varieties, particularly both the hard as well as the soft ones. The hard pressed cheese should have a maximum moisture of 39% and a minimum fat on dry matter of 48%. As we go for a semi-hard or semi-soft or soft variety, you will see that the moisture content will go on increasing. And for these three varieties, the maximum moisture content include maximum 48% for semi-hard cheese, maximum 52% for semi-soft cheese, and maximum 80% for soft cheeses. For the extra hard cheese and hard pressed cheese, the moisture content is respectively maximum 36% and maximum 39%, whereas the fat on dry matter content should be minimum 32% for extra hard cheese and minimum 48% for hard pressed cheese varieties. Classification of cheese based on moisture content. As I have already told you, the moisture content in the resultant cheese will dictate its texture, that is whether it will be soft or it will be hard. Now looking to the moisture content and based on the application, for example, consistency, we want hard grating cheese. It should have a low moisture content. The moisture content prescribed is maximum 34% for hard grated cheese, and the fat on dry matter should be preferably minimum 32%. For a hard cheese, not necessarily to be grated, the moisture content could be still greater up to maximum 39%, whereas the FDM content should be minimum 50%. The next variety, semi-soft variety, the moisture can be maximum 40%, whereas the fat on dry matter should be minimum 50%. Next, going to semi-soft but part skim, because we have already started with a milk which has been standardized to a low fat content. Obviously, the fat content will be low, so the minimum FDM content in this is 45%, whereas the moisture content maximum is 50. And the last, for soft variety, the fat on dry matter should be minimum 50, and the maximum moisture content, though not specified, could be something ranging from 60 to even 65% or more. You can see in this particular slide, it is a picture of cheese being prepared, and this is the step in which cooking of cheese curd in whey is being shown. You can already see that this is a very large cheese vat, probably containing more than 8,000 liters of milk. And after renneting, when you have obtained a set curd, it is cut with the help of a stainless steel knife. The whey starts emanating out after cutting of the curd, and now the cooking step is started after cutting of the curd, in which whatever curd we have got, which is already cut, will be there floating in the or dispersed in the whey, and we have to slowly raise the temperature of the water which is there in the jacket of the vat, which will be raising the temperature, say for example cheddar, from 31 degrees centigrade at which renneting was carried out to a temperature of 36 degrees centigrade within a span, say about 30 to 35 minutes. Whenever the temperature is raised, more and more of the whey will start expelling from within the curd, and the moisture content of the curd will decrease. This is what is the function of the cooking. Not only this, based on the starter culture which we have used, for example, if it is a mesophilic, you know that they'll be comfortable, the starter cultures will be comfortable at a temperature up to even 36 degrees centigrade. Whereas if you are preparing a cheese like mozzarella, where you have to use a thermophilic culture, in that case you will definitely try to raise the temperature of the cooking to around 40 or 42 degrees centigrade, which is rather the optimum temperature for such bacteria, and they'll be able to ferment better. This photograph which you are able to see is related to cheddaring of the curd. This step comes only after removal of the whey after cooking. Once the cooking of the curd is over, you remove the whey, and whatever curd is there, they are trenched on two sides of the cheese vat. In the middle, you leave a trench from where the whey can continuously come out through the outlet of the cheese vat. Now, whenever we are aggregating the cheese curd on both sides of the cheese vat, the curd, because of the acidification by the starter culture, they would like to stick to each other, forming blocks of the curd rather than whatever the cut curd we had put it after draining of the whey. Now once they fuse it, they form into a regular blocks which are to be cut into a specific size. They are required to be turned at a certain interval. That means you invert the same thing so that the whey drainage, whatever was continuing, will be retarded, and some more whey would tend to retain in the cheese curd. So during this cheddaring, again it will take about 30 minutes, which involves cutting them into a given block size, turning them at a given interval. Sometimes even we go for piling of one block over the other, and this is continued till acidity of the whey reaches about 0.35% lactic acid from the earlier one, say around 0.12% lactic acid after cooking. So this is what was related to the cheddaring of the whey, at the end of which you literally get a texture of the cheese curd which is compared with that of a chicken breast structure. That is the cheese varieties. 4 different cheese varieties has been shown: the Emmental cheese, the cheddar cheese, the cottage cheese, and the mozzarella. Here the softer cheese varieties are mozzarella and cottage, whereas the hard varieties are cheddar and Emmental. The characteristics of Emmental cheese is formation of the eyes upon ripening, more than 3.5–4 months of ripening. When you cut the block of the cheese, you will be able to see some hollow portions. So the eyes size would be diameter ranging from 2 to 2.5 centimeter in diameter, and this Ice is because of formation of carbon dioxide gas formed by one of the starter cultures, namely Propionibacterium shermani. Regarding cheddar cheese, if you can see, it has got a very close-knit, hard texture and body. No fissures, no opening should be seen because it has already undergone a pressing and drying stage before the final ripening. And this is the cheese variety cheddar which is used after ripening based on the degree of the ripening for processed cheese spread as well as processed cheese block manufacture. If you see cottage cheese, this is a very soft variety of cheese prepared initially from skim milk, but because around 5% of the fat is required in the resultant cheese, a creaming mixture containing some light fat cream, for example say 20% fat cream, is used for as a creaming mixture so that you get the 5% fat in the resultant curd. And these are to be consumed immediately, say within a week or so, and stored under refrigeration. The last one you can see is the balls made out of mozzarella cheese. The whiteness of the color of the cheese, and hence particularly buffalo milk, is more suitable than cow milk because cow milk tends to give you a little bit of yellow tinge, which is not the criteria for a good mozzarella cheese. It is a soft variety. And again, if the moisture content is restricted below 45 or 54% moisture, this is very much suitable as a pizza topping to be used on pizza pie. Hence, this is the mozzarella or the pizza variety. So, 2 soft cheeses and 2 hard cheeses variety has been shown. Composition of some specific cheese varieties. In this particular slide, I have tried to show the composition of cottage cheese, mozzarella cheese, which are soft varieties, and also shown composition of cheddar cheese and Swiss cheese, which are the hard varieties of cheese. As the name based on soft or hard variety, the moisture content in the soft variety, cottage cheese is 78%, nearing 80%. Whereas in mozzarella it is around 47.5, whereas the hard cheese variety cheddar has got 38 to 39 moisture and the Swiss cheese has got around 37% water content. The fat content in the cottage cheese is the least with 4%, mozzarella cheese with 19.5%, cheddar cheese around 31% and Swiss cheese 27.5% fat. And as you know, in the legal standard, we have to conform to the fat on dry matter content. The protein content again is least in cottage cheese since the water content is the highest, that is the protein content is as low as 12%. Whereas in all the rest of the three, if you see mozzarella, cheddar and Swiss cheese, it ranges from 25.5 to 28.6% protein content. With regard to the ash content, for mozzarella, cheddar and Swiss cheese, all of them contain something 3.3 to 3.8% ash. If you look at the minor milk constituents, namely calcium and phosphorus, expressed as milligram per 100 grams, the hard cheese varieties would tend to contain more since the water content is more. So, particularly the cheddar and Swiss together, the calcium content ranges from 721 to 900 milligrams per 100 grams, whereas the phosphorus content in cheddar is 512 milligram per 100 grams. The cottage cheese, having the highest moisture content, has the least calcium and the phosphorus content, respectively 100 milligram per 100 gram for calcium and 180 milligram of phosphorus per 100 gram of cottage cheese. This slide shows you the difference between cheddar and mozzarella cheese. We have already seen earlier that cheddar is something which is a hard variety. Its usage is different, and one of its main usages is in preparation of processed cheese and cheese spreads. And the second one is a soft variety, mozzarella. And pizza is again one small classification under the class of mozzarella cheese. If we see the criteria for differentiation, the milk that is suited best for cheddar is cow milk, whereas buffalo milk is more suited for mozzarella cheese making. Method of manufacture: cheddar cheese can only be prepared using starter culture method, whereas mozzarella can be used to prepare both using starter culture as well as only by direct acidification method using organic acids. The starter culture, if at all we are using starter culture for both cheddar and mozzarella, a mesophilic culture comprising of Streptococcus lactis and Streptococcus diacetylactis are used for cheddar cheese making, whereas preferably for mozzarella, particularly no moisture part skin mozzarella, we have to use a thermophilic culture comprising of Streptococcus thermophilus and Lactobacillus delbrueckii subspecies bulgaricus. The moisture content of the cheese, obviously the higher moisture content will be there in mozzarella, which ranges from 50 to 52%, whereas cheddar cheese would contain a moisture ranging from 37 to 39%. The desired pH of the final cheese, though not much wide, but even then slightly lower of pH of 5.1 is desired for cheddar, whereas for mozzarella cheese it is destined to be around 5.2 to 5.3. However, if you prepare mozzarella cheese by direct acidification method, the pH would be little greater to the tune of 5.5 to 5.7 pH. The treatment to the cheese curd: in cheddar cheese you go for pressing and we also go for ripening of the cheese. Both of these steps are absent in mozzarella. And again, if you look at the step which is used in mozzarella but not used in cheddar, that includes plasticizing and molding, and plasticizing especially to have the stressed strand of curd in preparation of the mozzarella cheese. The preferred method of salting for cheddar is basically dry salting. For mozzarella, both dry as well as brine salting is carried out, but brine salting gives a better quality cheese than does dry salting for mozzarella. The cheese yield for cheddar cheese making from cow milk, generally you get around 10% yield, whereas for mozzarella cheese making, since it is a little higher moisture variety, you may get a higher yield to the tune of 12.5% when made from cow milk. And finally, looking to the utility of these two varieties, the cheddar cheese is basically used for manufacture of processed cheese and manufacture of processed cheese spread, whereas the mozzarella can be used for application as pizza topping and also in applications like lasagne. Technological parameters for few cheese varieties. As I told you, based on a hard or a semi-hard or a soft variety, we have to change certain technological parameters. In this, I have taken cheddar, Swiss, cottage, mozzarella and ricotta. Amongst this, if you see the primary coagulating agent, the acid is used for cottage and ricotta, whereas rennet is used in cheddar, Swiss and mozzarella cheese making. No acid is used there. Cooking temperature desired for cheddar cheese is around 38 degrees centigrade, the maximum cooking temperature, highest one. For Swiss, it is one of the highest, around 53 degrees centigrade. For cottage cheese, the cooking temperature to be taken will be up to around 49 degrees centigrade. For mozzarella, it is restricted to around 32 when using a mesophilic culture, or sometimes to even 41-42 degrees centigrade when using a thermophilic culture. For ricotta, it is finally heated to about 80 degrees centigrade. The draining method and the pH for these cheese varieties: for cheddar, the pH is 5.2, whereas for Swiss, it is a more sweet acid. For example, the pH is 6.2, much higher than what we saw for cheddar. For cottage, it is nearing the isoelectric point, that is 4.6 pH. For mozzarella, the desired pH is 5.3, especially when using starter culture method, and for ricotta, the pH hovers around 5.9. The salting method, which we saw in the previous slide also, the brine is desired for mozzarella and Swiss, whereas for rest of the thing, that is cheddar, cottage and ricotta, dry salting is preferred. The rate of addition of salt is around 1 to 1.5%. The ripening period, again it varies. The cottage and ricotta, they are unripened. Even mozzarella is an unripened. However, during refrigerated storage, it does undergo some ripening changes. For cheddar cheese, 3 to 6 months ripening or even sometimes 12 months, especially for a sharper flavor, a higher ripening period is desired. For Swiss cheese, minimum 2 months and sometimes 2 to 6 months is also required based on the requirement by the end users. Technology of cheese manufacture, soft and hard varieties of cheese. We have already seen in this PowerPoint presentation that both manufacture of soft or a hard variety cheese, the procedure what is being followed in cheese manufacture has to be varied in order to prepare a hard variety. For instance, the curd has to be cut to a smaller size of cubes if you want to have a hard cheese. The cooking temperature that is to be employed has to be raised further higher so that the moisture expulsion is more and you tend to get a hard variety. And finally, at the pressing stage, if you go for pressing, more and more whey is going to be expelled, and finally you are going to get a cheese which is hard in texture, suitable for its particular end-use application, for example shredding or even grating. The examples of a soft and a hard variety we have already seen. To sum up, for example, the soft variety cheese includes feta, includes mozzarella and the cottage cheese. For hard varieties we have seen cheddar, then you have Cheshire, Edam, Gouda, etc. Even if you see the ripening characteristics, if a soft variety of cheese is going to be ripened, it will take lesser period because already the moisture content is more, the biochemical activities that are going to continue during ripening is going to be more, and hence the ripening period required for a soft variety will be much lower than what you would require for a hard variety where water activity is restricted, whatever enzyme activity, some starter culture remnant activity or even non-starter flora will be proceeding at a lower pace, and hence the ripening of a hard variety cheese will take months together, even sometimes to a year, for example even for cheddar cheese.